Hi everyone, this is Ashley Latecki-Ellenboss with Sky House Herb School and Apothecary. And today I'll be reading a poem from the book House of Light by poet Mary Oliver. I don't know who needs to hear this, maybe you do. I know I do today. So I'll read this and talk a little bit about it, and you can form your own thoughts and maybe your own meaning. So this one is called Writing Poems by Mary Oliver. This morning, I watched the pale green cones of the rhododendrons opening their small pink and red blouses. The bodies of the flowers were instantly beautiful to the bees. They hurried out of that dark place in the thick tree, one after another, an invisible line upon which their iridescence caught fire as the sun caught them sliding down. Is there anything more important than hunger and happiness? Each bee entered the frills of a flower to find the sticky fountain. And if some dust spilled on the walkways of the petals and caught onto their bodies, I don't know if the bees even know that otherwise death is everywhere, even in the red swamp of a flower. But they did this with no small amount of desperation. You might say love. And the flowers, as daft as mud, poured out their honey. So many things about this really speak to me. The first part is just the seduction of life. How she points out sort of the opening of the blossoms of the flowers and how it is so enticing, and the bees, they can't deny this beauty. And I feel often overwhelmed by this beauty, especially when I'm outside or when I'm in the presence of people that are very close to God. And there's this effulgence that comes from them that no matter how hard I try, I can't stay away from. I get sucked in, just like the bees get sucked into the flower. And while in that space, am I, in some ways, I am chasing after that hunger I think we have for life, to experience things, because we know, even though I don't think we think about it enough, that death is right around the corner. And that, as she says, the dust that gets stuck on their feet, that can crowd, and even the death that exists within the flower itself that could drown them. Even though they may know that, they go forward still. And so, when it comes to love, and that can be, romantic love, but even deeper than that, spiritual love, this quest we have for loving the beloved, for loving the one who created us and is the designer of all of this, that there's this draw that we have, it's inexplicable, but yet how easy it is to busy ourselves with things that are temporary, that temporarily satisfy us, but maybe aren't the ultimate source of happiness. But the interesting thing is that how often is the act of seeking that that indescribable love and connection, the act of seeking it is actually part of the finding of it itself. They say that, it's not about the destination, the journey, it's the journey to the destination. And like the bees, when we're seeking love, is that not love itself? Is that not an expression of God calling us back to love? And that this last line, and the flowers, as daft as mud, poured out their honey. And we too, as beings on this fertile land, when we seek out this divine love, it pours back into us, and we find that it's everywhere. But when we close ourselves off, when we're out like the bumblebee running into the window, there's nothing there. It's a reflection. But sometimes we do that with superficial things that we think are going to bring us honey and joy and love. But it's just a reflection. It's just a mirage. But when we find a real source, a real lasting source, how it meets us. It meets us with what we need and with as much honey as we can take. We may not be able to take it all at once. Most of us cannot handle that much love. So we take just as much as we can. And if we're wise, we bring it back to the hive and we share it, right? We give it to others. So that is my reflection for the day. Again, this poem is called Writing Poems from the book House of Light by Mary Oliver. And I would love to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your reflections, and what stood out to you when I read this poem. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you all again soon.